Now enough. How many types of arrays? What are those? Okay. One-dimensional array elements are accessed by how many index values? Only one index value. Now, two-dimensional arrays are the type of the arrays whose elements are accessed by using two indices or two subscripts. Okay. Now, first let us try to write the conceptually. Let us try to understand what a two-dimensional array. Then we will learn the syntax and how to access the elements. When we say the index, that is two-dimensional arrays, can be accessed using two indices or two subscripts. Okay, that means there will be two pair of square brackets. Okay. Conceptually or pictorially, we can represent a two-dimensional array in the form of a table. In the form of a table means not a table like this. Okay, consisting of some number of rows and some number of columns. Okay, let us say here on this particular Excel sheet, let me draw a table. Now here, tell me how many number of rows are there? How many number of rows here which I have bordered here? 5 rows. How many columns? 5. To avoid the confusion, let me remove one row from here. Okay. Now how many rows? 4 rows. How many columns? 5 columns. Now, two-dimensional arrays, that means suppose if there is an array by the name ARR, and if we can say this to be a two-dimensional array, then there must be two indices or two subscripts. We know that we can give the subscripts or the indices within the pair of square brackets. In case of one-dimensional array, we provide only one pair of square brackets. In case of two-dimensional arrays, we need to provide them to be two pair of square brackets. Okay. Now here the first pair, okay, the first pair of brackets, we know that we are going to provide some size. Size means what? The number of elements what it can store. Okay. Now, since it is a two-dimensional array, I need to provide two different sizes. What are those two different sizes? Those will be the number of rows or the number of columns what it can store. For example, here in this case, in this particular table, how many rows are there? 4 rows are there. That means here, first bracket, within the first bracket, if I write 4, that indicates that the array is going to consisting of 4 rows. Okay. Then now here in this table there are 5 columns. So I want to represent programmatically, means in the second pair of brackets I will provide it to be a 5. That means what? The array of size 4 and 5 means this array is of a type two-dimensional. Two-dimensional means there will be number of rows and number of columns. How I will understand how many number of rows are there? By looking into the first size or the number which I have written within the first square of brackets. That is 4 is the number of rows and the second number 5 that represents column. So as of now, remember that 4 means the number of rows in the given array and the 5 means number of columns. Have you studied in mathematics matrices? Everyone who are from commerce background, you must have studied in this semester, right? Matrices? No? No, I just want to know whether you have studied. Everybody have studied the matrices? Okay. How do we represent matrix elements? Rows and columns, right? Now, you can pictorially think that two-dimensional array is nothing but kind of a matrix. It is kind of a matrix where it has certain rows and certain columns. The rows are identified by the, in this case, the first number, that is the size, and the second column, the second number indicates the number of columns. Okay. Now see here, if I take only the first row, isn't it? It is a one-dimensional array. Yes. Then the second row, the individual, this particular second row, isn't it a one-dimensional array? Right? Can we say in general that the two-dimensional array is a group of one-dimensional array? Yes. Now, array, what we said, a group of elements which are stored under the same name or same data type. Now, can we give the definition for the two-dimensional arrays? Are two-dimensional array is a type of array whose elements are one-dimensional array. This can be one definition. Second definition could be two-dimensional array is a type of array whose elements are accessed by two indices or two subscripts. Are these both definitions holds good for the concept of a two-dimensional array here? Yes or no? If you're not following, you raise your hands. I will explain once again because this is very, very important. Okay? Clear? Understood? Now, assume that. Now tell me, if an array is declared in this way, 4 and 5, two-dimensional array. Now tell me how many elements this particular array can store?
20.
Yes, it is 20. Right? We need to multiply this 4 and 5 together because it is a rows and columns. Those many rows and those many columns will constitute that numbers multiplied. The product of those two numbers will. Okay. Now, how these elements are going to be accessed, that we need to understand. Now, pictorially, how I can represent here is that earlier you might have seen like one-dimensional array. Like suppose if there is a one-dimensional array by the name, say ARR, then below here I could have mentioned as 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. What are these numbers? Indices or the index values, right? ARR of 0 means this particular index value gives the element. ARR of 3 means the corresponding element. Means every element in the one-dimensional arrays are accessed by only one index value. It was pretty simple. But here we are studying something two-dimensional arrays. Again, the two-dimensional arrays are accessed by the index values only, but they are 2 in count here. They are 2 in count. Then every element, how are we going to represent and access it? Okay. Now, as I said, the first number here 4, what it is? Rows. It indicates the rows. Means there are 4 different rows, isn't it? Now, we also know that index value will always start from 0. Means if I want to give a number or an index value to this particular row, what will be the number? 0. Right? Then the next row, 1. Next, 2. Then 3. Look into here, the 3 is it the n minus 1 value? Here n value is what actually? The row size. Row is 4. Row minus 1 is the last index value for the rows. Now, in the same way, now I want to give some values or the index or indices to the columns as well. We know that index again starts from what? 0. Then what will be the number or the index value for the first column? 0. Next, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is this last column index, is it less than this 5? Yes? No. Now pay attention here. These cells indicates the elements of the array. Assume that, let us say, let me give some values here, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Then next, 5, 15, 25, 35, 45. Let's here take 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10 is already there. Let me take 12. Say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. These are the elements now. Are they 20 in count? Yes. Now, if I want to access any element in the two-dimensional array, how I can access? By using the two index values. First is the value of the row index and the value of the column index. For example, here let's say this 8. Okay, now 8 is the element. I want to access this particular element. Correct? Then what is the corresponding value of the row here? 2. It is 2. And what is the corresponding value of the column index? 3. That means this 8 is something like ARR of 2. First bracket completes, then the second bracket, what I need to write? 3. So AR of 2, 3 gives me the value as 8. Okay, now if we put the values here, this first element is what? 0, 0, isn't it? Second one, 0, 1. Next one, 0, 3. And then 0, 4. Next value will be what? 1, 0. Very good. Next, next, and next 2, 0. Very good. Then is 2, 0. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 0, 3, 1, and 3, 4. Suppose if the index values are like this, say 2 and 3. What is the element? 2 and 3. 2 means you have to look upon the rows. In this particular row, third, the index which is the value is 3. So 2 and 3 is 8. Right? Now suppose if you give, say 0 and 4, 50. 0th index row and 4th index column. Understood? Yes? Okay. Now, let us learn now. Pictorially, we have understood what a two-dimensional array, how it appears, but programmatically, how we can access these things. In order to understand the programmatical concepts of a two-dimensional array, we should already know some concept called as nested loop. What is nested loop? A loop statement is placed inside another loop statement, right? So we have to make use of those particular loop statement here. Let us see how we have to do that one. Okay, let me first remove off this content. Okay, now don't write anything. Don't write anything. Okay, now let us write the syntax of two-dimensional arrays. Can anyone tell me what is the syntax of one-dimensional array? If I want to declare an integer array of size 5, how I will do? Int array and then the 5 I will provide. This is the usage. But what is the syntax now for one-dimensional array? Data type, then space, array name, then how many square brackets for one-dimensional array? Only one. So here within this, what I should give? Size. And then semicolon. Right? Now can you tell me what will be the syntax for two-dimensional array here? We need to add one more size. So shall I mention here that first size as rows? Yes. So simply I will just make it as a row. And I will add one more pair of brackets, and within this I can mention as column. Correct? So it indicates what? In this particular array by the name array name, there will be so many rows and so many columns. And what is the data type? The corresponding data type, what it is been declared it to be. Suppose if I want to declare an integer data type array of 2 dimensions, then int ARR is the name what I have given. Then within this size, suppose 2 means how many rows? 2 rows. And here 3 means 3 columns. Total how many values? 6 values of 6 elements. This is the declaration of an array ARR of integer data type, which can store total 6 elements. The 6 elements means 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay. Next is that we want to initialize the values. We want to initialize the values. Initialization means Giving the, assigning the initial values to every element in the array. Now, in one dimensional array, how we have done? Anybody remember? No, before for loop, like suppose if this is the case, how we had done? Equals to within the brackets, within the flower brackets, 1, 2, and 3. Forgot everything. This is the initialization, right? So here ARR of 0 will take 1, ARR of 1 is 2, ARR of 2 is 3. The same approach can be done even for the two-dimensional arrays. Okay, let's see how it is being done. Let's give me another value here. Now, one of the definition of two-dimensional array, as I said, it is collection or it is a group of one-dimensional arrays. If I want to initialize, again here I need to specify those many elements. Total, how many elements I should provide here? 6 elements. That means suppose if I give 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. In this case, there are 6 elements. But how the program will understand that how many rows and how many columns are there? It can be like there is only one row of elements. There can be something like there are 3 rows and 2 columns. It can give any different type of meanings here. But we want to give a proper meaning saying to be that these elements actually consisting of 2 rows and 3 columns. In one row, how many values will be there? In one row, how many values will be there? 3 values, right? Means first 3, I will make a separation. How I will make a separation? I will give one more pair of brackets over here. Okay, then comma, then second row, how many values will be there? 3. Means starting from here, I will write another pair of brackets. Now try to understand this particular statement here. We are declaring an array of two-dimensional, which consists of 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, and initialization we are doing here, right? Now, there are multiple flower brackets here. If you see, there is an outer bracket, and inside that, again, there is a group of 3 values. Why only group of 3 values? Because in every row, there are going to be exactly 3 elements, right? 3 elements are what? The number of columns here. Such how many rows will be there? 2 rows will be there. So group of 2 I have specified. For example, now tell me, suppose if there is an array, say array of A, stating to be say 3 and 2. Okay. And now if I want to initialize this one, how I should write? Now first of all understand how many rows? How many columns? Now total how many elements? 6 elements. Now, how I should do the initialization here? Okay, simple way is that first let us put the brackets. How many brackets I require here? 3 brackets. Why 3 brackets? Because there will be 3 rows, right? Since there are 3 rows, inside the outer these brackets, I will place 3 more pair of brackets, and all those 3 are separated by what? Comma. Then inside every or each of these inner brackets, I'm going to specify the number of elements every row consists of. Every row consists of how many elements? 2 elements. So here the 2 elements like 1 and 2 means this is first row, first column, first row, second column. In the same way here I will specify the next values 3 and 4, and here say 5 and 6. Understood this one? Yes? Now take one more example. Array n of say 4 and 3. Now how many rows are there? How many columns are there in this example? 4 rows, 3 columns. Okay, then here, how many brackets I should write? 4 brackets. So first bracket, then comma, second set of brackets, comma, third set of brackets, comma, and then fourth set. And in every bracket, 3, because 3 columns are there in every row. So the values, say 1, 2, 3, whatever values we want to provide, those values we can provide inside these brackets. Understood? This is programmatically how we can initialize here. But always we don't follow this particular approach here. We don't follow this particular approach. But what instead of that, what we will do? We will try to access it from the keyboard and store these values. Let us first go ahead and try to write a code for how we can print these values as of now. Let's go step by step here. These are the variables, or the array is been declared, 2-dimensional array, and it is been initialized. Now I want to print these elements here. Okay, now pay attention. As I said, we require a concept of nested loops. Nested loop means loop statement inside another loop statement. Most of the time we make use of the for loops here as well. Okay, now is it a nested for loop? Is it a nested looping? Yes. This is called as outer for loop. This is called as inner for loop. Now remember here, outer for loop always helps to access number of rows. It indicates how many rows are there. Then inner for loop will help us in accessing in every row how many columns are there. So the inner for loop is for the number of columns. So always in a 2-dimensional array programs, there will be a nested for loop. Okay, exactly 2 in count. The outer for loop always provides the accessing to the outer for, that is for the number of rows, and the inner for loop is for the number of columns. Now I need to write the initial value, condition, and the updation. We know that initial value is for the arrays is always 0. Suppose I will be requiring 2 variables like int I and j. I will use it for outer for loop, that is for rows, and j I will use it for inner for loop, that is for columns. Okay, then for here I, that is for the for loop, what will be the initial value? I equals to 0. Then condition I need to provide I less than the number of rows. What is number of rows here? 2. So I less than 2. Then semicolon. Then next is the counter, that is I plus plus. Now similarly I need to write the statements inside this for the inner for loop. Inner for loop is for what purpose? Columns. And what is the corresponding variable for that? J. So what will be the initial value of j? 0. Condition j less than 3. And then j plus plus. Okay. Now we know that the elements of this any element of a 2-dimensional arrays are accessed by what? By array name in the first bracket, row number, second bracket, column number. So in general, can I write here like ARR of I, then j? Can I write like this? The same way I'm going to represent in the program as well. Now I want to print the values. So to print the values, what I should do here? Printf, right? What is the data type of the variable? Integer, so %d. Okay, then comma. I want to now access the element of 2-dimensional array. What is the name of the array? ARR. How many dimensions are there? 2 dimensions are there, means 2 brackets. First bracket is for what? Row. Rows. What is the corresponding variable for the rows here? I. So this is I. Second bracket is for columns. Corresponding variable is j. Then close the bracket, then semicolon. So what it will do is that it will start from index value 0. First, let us execute and see how it looks. Then I'm going to modify this program. Okay, let's run the program. Let's return 0. It's there. Return 0 is there. Okay, let's see any errors. Okay, I should remove this statement, right? I should remove this statement. Okay. Do you understand anything out of that? Okay, now 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Are they the elements of the two-dimensional array? Yes. But is it in a proper readable format? No. We have to display it in a proper readable format. What is the best approach here? It would be rows and then columns, right? The same way we will try to write our printf statements here. Now, tell me, when I print the first element 10, after that immediately I don't want to print, but I want to give some spaces, right? To give us some spaces, a tab width, what I should use? /t, right? So first element is printed, second element is printed, third element is printed. That is, first row is completed. After first row is completed, now I want to move on to the next row, right? Now, what I should do? /n. Now, where should I give the /n? After /t. Okay, after /t, I will give /n. Okay, let's see what happens here. I will run the program. How it is displayed? One column itself, but we don't want in this way, right? Now, understand here. Okay. Let me first make it to be 2 rows and 3 columns data. 1 second. And there are 10, 20, 30, and then 40, 50, 60. Is this pictorial representation correct with respect to our array? Yes. Now we want to print in this particular order. Okay, pay attention. I'm going to trace the program. At the same time, I'm going to print the values as well. Okay, now I equals to 0, I less than 2. Is condition true? Yes, means it will enter inside the for loop, inner for loop. J is equals to 0, j less than 3. Is condition true here? Okay. Then it will enter into the inner for loop. What we want to do? We want to print the corresponding element of I and j. What is I value here? 0. J value 0. So array of 0 and 0 is what? 10. So we are going to print 10. After we print 10, we want what has to be done? A /t has to be printed, a tab width. Okay, a tab width is there here. Then next, the control will go to the j++. Yes or no? Yes. J++. Now j will become 1. So 1 less than 3. True. It will enter into the for loop. Then next, what happens? Print the ARR of 0, 1. At 0, 1, what is the value? We have 20. So how it will be printing? First 10 will print a space, a tab width, then 20 will print. Okay. Then there is again a tab width. Next it is going to print over here. Then j++ will happen. Now j value is what? 2. Is this 2 less than 3 true? It will enter into the inner for loop again. Now it will print I is 0, j is 2. So what is 0 and 2th element? 30. So now 30 will print over here. Okay. Then next, again tab width is there. So it will go on to the next cell here. Next, j++. Now what will be j value? 3. Is 3 less than 3? No. False. Right? So this particular for loop, that is it will come out of the line number 15. It will come out of the line number 15 here. Okay. Now, after we print 30, next element where we want to print? Next line. Means after printing 30, we want a /n. Not at every element, but after printing every row of element, we want to print a /n. Means when this particular for loop gets completed, then here we want a printf statement. What this printf statement should do? /n. Okay. Now in the tracing, now here it had come out of the for loop. Then we have a printf statement. What is this? /n means take the cursor onto the next line. Now the cursor is here. Now it will come on to the next line here. Okay. Now after this printf is executed, where does the control go back to? Outer for loops updation. What is that? I++. Now what will be the value of I? 1. Now is that 1 less than 2? Is it true? Then it will enter into the for loop now. Now what has done? Outer for loop, when it completes one cycle, it will print all the elements of first row. Then next time when it enters into that loop, it is going to print the next row values. Okay. Now it will enter into the inner for loop, that is line number 12. In the line number 12, initialization statement now. Again, j will get updated as 0. Now, is 0 less than 3? Yes, condition is true. What has to be done? Enter into the inner for loop and print the value. This time, what is the I value? 1. What is the j value? 0. What is 1 or 0? 40. So 40 will be printed now. Then a tab width. So tab width is given. Next, j++, j will become 1. 1 less than 3? True. Print the element. So what is I and j here? 1 and 1. 1 and 1, what is the element? 50. So 50 will be printed. Then a tab width. Again, it will go on to the next element here. Then j++, j will become now 2. Is this 2 less than 3? True. Again, print the element. What is the I value? What is j value? 2. So 1 of 2 is what? 60. So 60 will be printed. Then tab width, it will go on to the next tab, next cell here. Next, j++, j becomes 3. Is this 3 less than 3? False. So it will skip the for loop. Now where will the control go to? Printf statement. That is, it will print a /n. Now the control will come on to the next line. Then I++. Now I will become 2. 2 less than 2? False. False means now it will skip the outer for loop as well. So now the control will come out of this and the next statement is return 0. Program will get terminated. Now let us save the program and run and check whether we get the same values or not. Are we getting here 10, 20, 30 in the first row? Then next 40, 50, 60 in the next row. Is it something like similar to a matrix elements? 2 rows and 3 columns. Understood this one? Any doubts? In the next class, how much time we have now? 5 minutes. Okay. Now, don't write down as of now. Okay, I will try to modify this program again, wherein instead of taking the values like this, we can read it from the keyboard itself. Again, there we are going to make use of a scanf statement, but it will be placed inside a nested for loop. Okay.